Some technical difficulties yesterday. They could have been from me driving around and the signal being distorted or weak, or they could have been from intentional interruptions from some entity that did not want me to really talk on this topic. You understand? Shout out to this guy's in the building. See, he left a comment yesterday. Salute to you, this guy, for engaging with the channel. Shout out to Uncle Andy. And I didn't, right now I'm in conflict on really where to. The pride and ego in me really wants to just start the whole chapter over, right? That's what the pride and ego wants to do. Mel is in the house. Gracing us with your presence. Haven't seen you in a couple of days. There's a lot going on with the Doge and the politics and all that, so we just took a quick break. And we want to talk about some other things for a second. We're talking about this whole conversation kind of came up. I mean, I teach on these things anyway, and let's say I talk about these things. I don't like to say teach. I do not think I'm an adept to really teach. I might be, but I won't own it. Because every time you learn something, you figure out you learn something else. And that's the thing about life, right? And that's not going to stop, right? So you learn something and you knew something. But then you learn that you learned something. You learn that you didn't know something else. That's what you learn. It's like, dang, that's crazy. So I don't think I'm there yet to be like, yo, I'm a teacher of this. Because I'm still finding things out that's blowing my mind, to be quite honest with you. And I think out of all the things that I learned, the most is understanding that history was suppressed and held back from us intentionally. Whether it was through burning of books, right? Whether it was the collection of materials and hiding them away somewhere. Whether it was intentionally teaching you something that they know was not correct. And understanding that part right there, I think, is the biggest help when coming into contact with this new information, because you're going to struggle with it, because it doesn't sound like anything that you've been taught. So therefore, you're going to struggle. You're going to push back. It's going to be like, nah, this don't sound right. You know what I'm saying? Why would they even teach me lies? They would teach you lies so that they can control you better, right? They would teach you lies so that you don't understand your full capability as the entity that you are, the Homo sapien sapien, right? I'm not saying you full-blood Anunnaki and all of this other stuff, but what I am saying is you can have way more powers than you thought you'd have, right? Started working on this project, not going to call it a book yet. About, I would say, minimum 2 years ago, I came up with this concept of changing dimensions, right? How rapid can you go through different dimensions, right? So when we think about dimensions, we think about we think about time travel, right? So, okay, did he travel? Or you talk about traveling to another time and space? So if I say, yo, you're in a dimension you're not supposed to be in, right? You say, what that mean? That could mean you made a decision you wasn't supposed to make, and now it has an effect on your reality. You understand that? You was headed somewhere else, but you decided to make a decision, right? Whether someone came in and intentionally distracted you, because these things happen. When people see that you are great and you're headed somewhere, they will come in, right? They'll feel like inadequate. Why do they feel inadequate? Because they have not put in the effort to live up to their full potential. Whether they be lazy or fighting their own, what we call demons or whatever the case may be. But the fact is, you seem to be progressing. Now, if this could be your friend, this could be your family, this could be your mate. So you're supposed to be side by side. But what happens is apparently you are headed somewhere else with this, right? And it makes them look inadequate. And because they are not willing to put in the work, they start to sabotage your reality, suggesting things that would not lead you to your destination. Now, if you appease them, right, because the human side of you feels bad, so you like, yo, let me just, something told you to stay in that night and write. Something told you to stay in that night and build your Poshmark, build your profiles. You had this whole scheme in your head of how you was going to do it. And then somebody comes along, yo, you want to go out, this, that, and the third, do this, that, and the third. You, the human side of you, that night is a wreck. You wasn't never supposed to be there. You ended up in a dimension you was not supposed to be at. All for your decisions. But it could get deep. Because just when you thought you was one dimension away from your reality, your intended reality, you're always going to be in the reality that you are in. But your intended reality, it goes deep. You can end up in Inception, where you are 5, 9, 15 levels away from your intended reality. And it's not always someone distracting you. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's you, the decisions you make. We say things are mistakes, but many things are not mistakes. They're decisions we've made, conscious decisions we made, that were poor decisions, and we end up in another dimension. Nonetheless, I digress for going off on that rant, because that is not even what this show is about. However, I do believe once we teach that science, and that's what I was telling you before, I'm working on that science there, that curriculum, so we could create programs for that and basically get it out to the youth early. Because if they do understand that science and start to treat life as a true science, then they have a better chance as functioning adults. However, there were these dogmatic programs that was that said they was here for your benefit. But in fact, what they might have done, and I say might disparagingly because I'm pretty sure they did this. I just say might this morning, but I know they did this. But what they might have done is create these programs called religion to control the people and hide the true history and pronounce themselves as God and change and alter the future because they wanted it to stop right then and there, right? They wanted to call themselves gods. So when it comes to the Egyptians, yeah, Egypt has some phenomenal mysteries. But was it the true Egyptians that created that? Those mysteries? Or did they themselves inherit something from an earlier civilization, from some entities that came there, right? And then at a certain time in Egypt, one of them just gets up and claims, I'm the only true God. Me. No more of these gods. Yeah, I know we've all been worshiping the gods forever, but today it stops, and everybody's going to worship a 10. Or everybody's going to worship Amen-Ra. This is immature man. This is why I call us primitive. No matter the technology or the science, not that they had an abundance of technology and science in Egypt. For according to Plato, there was its technology and restored. So the reason I say that this is immature is because these people too, no matter how much reverence we give them, all the Egyptians, that you was acting out of pride and ego. Pride and ego. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been so selfish, and you would have thought about the future of humanity and how much they needed to know the truth. But you was acting out of pride and ego, and whenever you act out of pride and ego, it is a sign of immaturity. And we all do it. Because we have not mastered that part of our behaviors, our thinking, our consciousness and subconsciousness. So, I'm still thinking, do I play yesterday's video from the beginning? Because I don't like how they cut me off, to be honest with you. And to tell you the truth, the only reason I seen the comments yesterday that Uncle Andy left and this guy left is because I went to go to delete the video. I usually delete the video as soon as I get off. But I'm like, you know what? I'll do it later. Like a video ending like that, I'm deleting right away. It didn't end good. It seemed like there was some type of interruptions. Right? I start making sense about reptilians. It's not that David Icke didn't do a good job, but David Icke put it in a book. So he can't reiterate and emphasize the way someone who's talking can. So if I'm doing it in front of camera, I could go to resources in front of you, I could repeat it, I could reiterate, I could emphasize different. But when you do first read David Icke and he start talking about reptilians, it is like, all right, I don't even want to read the rest of your book because you're starting off wild. That's how it feels, right? I'm good, bro. I did want to hear what you had to say, but now you're tripping. You're kind of wild out here starting off with reptilians. And it would be ironic because the Bible starts off with reptilians talking to the first human. And who taught the reptilian how to talk? Because they in a full-fledged conversation. A philosophical one at that. This is a wise serpent. It's not like you know a couple of words or how to howl like a dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've heard a dog say no, like, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, snap, you learn to say no. Yeah, but he's not about to say, well, actually, Jamel, that's the extent of my vocabulary, you see. He's not about to go into depth. Here's a whole snake on 4, I don't know how many legs, but he wasn't on his belly. We know that. Why do we know that? Because that was his punishment. Why would you give someone a punishment who's already victim to that circumstance? So if the snake wasn't on his belly, I just come to my own conclusion that the snake was standing upright. So you have a walking snake. Some would say this is a reptile humanoid, according to the Bible. According to the Bible. So when David Icke puts out his work, sometimes you could be too early. And sometimes it's just on time because that was the part you were supposed to play in humanity. So David Icke played his part. And then you have different people that come through and expound on it. It's kind of like John the Baptist coming and then Jesus the Christ coming. And then John the Baptist said, okay, I told you this dude was coming. He's here. I'm out of here. You understand? You can take it away from here. So the other day, we was in conversation about something, and Kush from Check It Out TV kind of set this whole conversation off that apparently is turning into a series. So shout out to Kush, and shout out to his significant other, Pretty Divine. And he's talking about the moon. I make a comment. When I get off the show, I say, you know what? I do a show on exposing this audio here. YouTube has not stopped me. So, but I know how let me just say this. Because I don't want to say the powers that be and the Illuminati and all this other crap that I don't know for sure. What I know for sure is that to get my hands on this audio that you're listening to, it took a lot. Because I'm talking about it took a lot. Because somebody did not want me to find the audio. They did not want me to know the author's name. I'm like, that's crazy. Right? This is how I found this book. Somebody had put out a short of the author on a podcast. It was a short. It didn't have the author's name. It had the podcast name. I went to the podcast to try to find the podcast. I had to pay money for the podcast when I finally found the podcast. When I finally found the podcast, I had to pay money for the series. I paid money for the series. Wouldn't you know, when I got inside, guess what? 2 episodes were taken down. Wallahi, I don't make this up. The 2 episodes that was taken down was the 2 episodes with the author on it that you're listening to right now speaking. I said, this is crazy, man. This is ridiculous. You got a whole season of podcasts. No other episodes was taken down. None. Only 2 that was taken down was the one with the author that I'm looking for, and I'm trying to listen because that was a short. I want to hear what else you got to say. And you took those 2 episodes down? Oh. So I did some more research and found out he had a book. And then I did some more research and found out that there was an audio version of the book. He actually has 2 books. And I would call his sources credible. In fact, I reached out to one of his sources, which was an old Native American, real Native American. Not like how you people be like, oh, my grandmother's part. Shut up. Your grandmother's nothing. Respectfully, right? Shut your face. Shut your pile. She's nothing that you're about to say she is. Please. She was a sweet old lady. Her apple pies were, they were on point. It was okay. Her eggs were terrible. I assure you this. People crack me up, always running around claiming the Native American style. Oh my, shut up. Shut up. This was a real Native American, man. These people have went through genocide. It's not a game for you to be running around. Listen, identity theft is a crime, man. Right? And I tell the Jews this all the time. Can't be running around acting like you somebody that you're not. So I reach out to him, and he reaches out back and says, I decline. Right? This is when it really sank in to protect your brand. And he told me why he declined the interview. And he said, you know, when I first pulled up to your show, I seen these type of videos, right? And he wasn't feeling the energy, and he said, I decline. And I said, damn. Now, the video he seen wasn't crazy, and if you would have watched it, you know, you'd have seen there was a message in there somewhere, definitely, right? But what it taught me was, like, yo, you will find your tribe. Don't, like, be doing all of this other monkey business to find your tribe. Let them attract to your energy, right? So if you can't control these numbers, right? You on somebody else's platform. YouTube could control these numbers. They already showed you that. If they wanted thousands of people to come over here, they could have thousands of people over here today, right now. If they don't feel like they want thousands of people over there, then they won't be. That has nothing to do with the texture of your content, right? Keep your texture of your content strong, right? So that the few people that know that when they come over, they're hearing truth, they're hearing something they can stand on, not like lies and stuff like that. So then I was like, all right, forget the numbers, man, right? And I changed my first video, so when you come to my channel, you're not getting that vibe, right? And I deleted a bunch of videos. I took a lot of videos that I got thousands of views on, right? I'm out of here. Like, I don't want that on my channel. I don't want that energy. It just taught me a lesson. That was a very good, not just interview, but that was someone that has history that I won't be able to interview now because of a decision that I made. So slow and steady, let it be. You understand? Shout out to everyone that's supporting Beyond You. We are really making strides in the background. I'm not in a rush to say a lot of things. You know, I didn't make, what Andy said he had to act, but the reason I haven't announced that is because developers are still taking things down and putting things up, and I didn't want to announce it while all of this stuff was going on, right? So if you do go on Beyond You right now, you're probably not going to see a lot of stuff because they're playing around in the background. But we're making excellent stride, and I am right on trajectory. My real trajectory is June, right? We got all type of shows coming for everybody, man. I really feel 100% great about it. So we making strides there. Creating reality. It is science. It is something that gods do, right? I was looking at these monuments that was made out of pure stone, meaning they had to be carved. Now, did people carve these out of hand? I highly doubt it. I highly doubt that people carve these stones out of hand. The type of work I've seen, right? I'm saying whole castles built out of just stone, out of the original block of stone that was there, and then somebody or some people or something carved out a castle out of this stone. I mean, well, how do we regress? Why don't we know how to do that today? I think what I'm gonna do is I might rewind the book a little bit. Instead of going all the way back, I'll rewind it a little bit and we can start from there. I think that's what I'll do. But whenever there's some type of interruption like that, it kind of leads me to say, okay, I must be on the right path because I'm getting all these interruptions, right? And to the apologists. Some of you are so dedicated to your faith that you would get out here and tell lies in order for people not to question their own faith, right? And I'm talking to a lot of you Christians, mostly Christians that do it. It's not a lot of Muslims. Muslims kind of like stay in the cut. They keep their tongue, right? They don't really say a lot. I don't get a lot of Muslims or Jews over here fighting the power. It's nothing really to fight if it comes out my mouth. There's nothing to fight. And I don't know, let me just stand on my square for a second. I don't even know if you want that fight with me, to be honest with you. I have not unleashed all I know. I'm not that type of person. I'm not the type of person to snatch your religion from you for no damn reason. You don't see me just doing shows up here to discredit your religion. When you piss me off is when you get up here and you come back and you say something that is untrue so that nobody from your religion would believe the things that I'm saying. Now you are just as worse as the other people. So what type of Christian are you, right? So if I asked you, like I did yesterday, how many years it take for gold to form, and then you you consciously say, let me go over to his comment section after the show go off, Angelo, and write 1,000 years. Oh yeah, wow. When it's not 1,000 years, not only have you played yourself, right? But you already knew you was playing yourself because you was not playing the devil advocate, you was playing the devil. You wasn't playing the devil's advocate, you was playing the devil. To mislead the people to think that gold is formed at that. Why? Because if they knew that gold was, it takes 1 billion years for gold to form. You see, some of them have intellect and logic and reason. Something's gonna go off. Something's gonna go off. They're gonna say, wait a minute now. Gold take 1 billion years to form? Then they're gonna go back, they're gonna read the Bible, and only in the second, we still talk about the creation. We still talk about the creations. In the second chapter, you go to the second chapter of Genesis, in the 12th verse, and it says that the gold in that area, in that land is good. Well, how would you know this? We just starting to write about the beginning of mankind. How would you know this? What made you speak of gold in the first place? We are only talking about the creation of all things on this earth and mankind. Why would you bring up gold in the first place? Now you have me questioning how long this place has been here, and we in the second chapter of Genesis. Because if Jamela's right, then somebody has to question their own faith, which is going to cause a discomfort. That's an unease. You've been dedicated to that religion. Your mother and father taught you that religion. Your grandmother taught you that religion. She did prayers and all type of rituals for you, right? It's a deep part of your culture at this point. You cannot uproot this, Jamel. So get out of here with your lies and your deception. Yeah, all right. I will tell you this. Angelo and the demons like you. I will tell you this. To this earth by my own volition, I would probably be more intimidated. But I assure you, I'm giving it the way I know how to give it. And when I'm gone, there will be others. So no one is concerned. With your distractions, with you guys' feelings that have been conditioned into harboring lies, living with lies. Listen, if you like it, I love it, right? I'm just here to tell you you've been lied to. All right, that being said, let's go to the good book. I'm going to rewind it a little bit. So today we're going to end up doing like a chapter and a half, right? The chapter after this is really interesting. The chapter after this is really interesting, and then we really going to get into some interesting stuff after that chapter, which is going way before all that we've talked about right now. But let's start here. Let me see if this is. Let me go hit it twice more. All right.
With super strength and powers, able to perform superhuman feats. There are indications that they also experimented with crossbreeding different species and cloning. Later, this technology was taken with them when they colonized Egypt, where it was also practiced. Omar tells us that they also learned how to block brain impulses to parts of the brain that caused crime.
So let's take it back even further, because I like where they're going with this. I like what he's talking about. Why? Because we could kind of relate it to our reality right now. I think in the 50s, I do believe it was the 50s, but you guys are in front of a computer right now, that the United States started playing around with DNA sequencing, right? There was no real manipulation of the DNA data at this time. It was just kind of like DNA sequencing, right? Later on, I think maybe late 80s, early 90s, and I say late 80s, early 90s, because I think they announced it in the early 90s that CRISPR-Cas9, the ability to edit the DNA, had been announced. So we went from the progression of being able to sequence DNA to being able to splice and edit DNA. Mind you, like Kush said the other day, if they're announcing it, they've been playing around with it for minimum 30 years, right? So they're not just going to let things out that they haven't tinkered around with themselves. Sometimes they do, but it's still in their benefit, right? And they're doing it to get more information, right? So let's just say AI. They didn't release it because it would be a benefit to you. They released it because they could get way more information and train the AI if they release it to the public, to the world, right? So that's going to be way faster than hiring 10,000 people and every day having them come in and try to train the AI. If they just release it to the public, they get their job done faster and easier. Because you have to train it. They still own the AI machine, the server. But they just need scenarios is what they need. They need someone to query it, to question it, to see the abilities, to push it. You know, hiring 10,000 people, even really wanted to into what they wanted to by a certain time period, well, you're going to be way off using 100,000 people, right? That's not going to be nothing. So in those type of cases, they do open it up to the public, but it's not for your benefit. Can you take advantage of it? Well, I suggest you do. Like, what is the sense of it opening up and you're not taking advantage of it? We got Franklin Saint from the United States in the house. He says, what's up? Yo, Franklin, what's up? Hit the like button, do subscribe. You understand? Hit the like button, do subscribe. All right. You said Kush is in the building? Oh, Kush is in the building. Okay, we got Kush listening in from the JOB. Shout out to you, Kush. Right? So we I'm not even worried about numbers, right? I'm doing this, I'm actually happy. It's small groups and having a decent conversation. Let's call it that. Now, I want to bring it back even further because I don't know who he's talking about right here. I do believe he's talking about the Martians. But the reason I went into that spew just now about DNA and all that other stuff is because, you know, some people find it hard to believe what they're hearing. However, I have to remind them, it's no different from what we're doing right now. You know what I'm saying? Genetically engineering is not even new, and we're doing it right now. So not only are they talking about it in the Bible, we're doing it right now. There's a Chinese doctor who went to jail, by the way, for creating twins, and he created the twins so that they were immune to HIV. He got sent to jail for that. He got sent to jail for that. I think the same time around Jack Ma went disappearing. Jack Ma is back out of hiding, by the way. But yeah, those twins that he created cannot catch HIV. They're immune. Which raises the question, okay, if we have this technology, why aren't we using it for greater use? There is a simple answer. It's not the answer you want to hear. The simple answer is that doesn't make us money. But how much money you need and what do you need this money for? Because you do know you can just print money, like the difference. Well, the difference is we have not come to that point in time yet. We are going to get to a point where people don't necessarily need to work. This is why Sam Altman is working on his universal basic income studies along with other think tanks and NGOs working on UBIs, universal basic income. It's coming. Don't you worry about it. See, I believe the reason that the Mesopotamian history and the Babylonian history and the Sumerian history, because what you must know is that they piggyback off each other, right? To where Marduk was a god in Babylonia, but in Sumerian civilization, Marduk was just the sun. You see? Like I told you before, you're always going to get that one that comes through and wants to erase history and clamp thumb as this, I'm the guy, right? But the reason that all of these civilizations were oppressed is because it would have led us to a point of enlightenment. So therefore, all of those histories had to be obscured so that the newer religions can be formed, easier to control people if they don't know nothing about that stuff, where this all derived from. All of it derives from. Ancient Egyptians walking around like they was out here. You come on, man, give credit what credit is due. So now that we're in the year 2025 AD, the reason a lot of this stuff sounds weird to your ears is because a lot of you never heard this before, and it's like, why wouldn't I have heard this before? So you got to be telling the lies. You wouldn't have heard it before because they wouldn't want to have enlightened you to where all of it derives from. You can't have been believing in Noah's Ark your whole life and then all of a sudden you get wind that, wait, Noah's Ark was plagiarized from another civilization? You tell me, because Noah's Ark wasn't written first. It's not like that concept was created first by the Christians or the Jews. There's a whole civilization that way before them, way before the Egyptians, that had this story already. So what are we talking about? Then when you start up to add up the hours, how many hours you spent in church? I mean, if you're not triggered, you understand let's keep it real. The Catholic and the Christian church is filthy. Filthy with lust. Men touching on boys. Huh? It's disgusting. You know it and I know it. So I don't know why you would even want to push back on this. Right? They already got a number of lawsuits that they've settled on. Do not debate me on this. It's a filthy situation going on over there. Filthy situation going on over there. Spitfire was good. You know I can't be staring at the screen. But good morning, Spitfire. I think you're just in time, Spitfire. I'm about to play the audio. I had started, but then I rewinded it because I wanted to hear from like where they was coming from. I was debating restarting the whole thing because I didn't like how they stopped my show yesterday. But it's okay. Let's keep going.
Martians were attacking the reptilian lunar colonies at about the same period. How they are protected from violent storms and lightning, and how to switch the drive to solar energy when the fuel supply becomes low. The writings relate to 70 authorities and 10 experts on ancient air travel. The texts are extremely precise and easy to understand by modern scientists, except for several metals and alloys, which they cannot recognize. As we have heard, the Moldekians and the Martians were attacking the reptilian lunar colonies at about the same time. From Omar, we learned that the Atlans also had spacefaring technology and may have joined in these assaults. He says, more remarkable is the ancient literature from Egypt, Central America, Asia, Phoenicia, and Babylonia concerning how these spacecraft traveled to other planets and returned to Earth, how they utilized weapons in a Star Wars fashion. These crafts could not be damaged by humans on Earth, and were piloted by astronauts that ancient paintings and carvings show in spacesuits. Atlanteans who had spacecraft that were capable of interplanetary travel and theoretically could have gone to Mars. The moon was said to have been once part of the Atlantean Empire. The first satellite to orbit the moon sent back a photo of an ancient pyramid on the dark side of the moon that we have examined, and it was censored from the public by the US government with other moon ruins. Ruins of walls and roads were found on the moon by astronauts who will not speak publicly due to the $10,000 fine, 10-year jail sentence, and dishonorable discharge for violating official U.S. government regulation 200-2. Apparently, the Atlanteans had progressed very far into computer technology and artificial intelligence, even beyond what we have today. According to Omar, Atlanteans created a national workforce of robots, androids, and humanoids from genetic engineering to create and maintain most of the material plane empire, and that computers controlled the robots and androids. Perpetual motion machines were created that created and operated other machines and repaired them. Atlantis was on the verge of life without instrumentalities. In other words, the empire was controlled by machines and computers that did everything for the citizens. No Atlantean had to work or go to school. VRIL helmets educated the people while they were asleep. A teenager had knowledge beyond that of even the most respected geniuses of our age. With a 1,000-year lifespan to acquire knowledge, Atlanteans were aware and informed beyond our imaginations.
Now, he didn't really speak about nothing that where we not going right now, so it's hard to be like, I don't believe that. Okay, you don't have to believe it, but that's where we headed right now. That's where we headed right now. Right? So when you see Black Mirror, and I stopped watching Black Mirror because they started doing too much DEI business. And when I say DEI, I do not mean incorporating more handicapped and more black people in their episodes. No, it was more homosexual behavior that is not naturally part of the Homo sapien culture. So, understand, when some of us do not want to partake in this homosexual behavior from any capacity, it is not because we are homophobic. These are your Edward Bernays taught words to make someone else feel like they need to accept a behavior that is not natural for the Homo sapien. Man and woman created he. Right? So this is our natural behavior, to be attracted to the man, be attracted. Something else came in and tainted that. Behaviorally engineered that. Now, I'm not telling you to feel guilty for being a homosexual. That's not what my conversation is about. But if I wouldn't make you feel guilty for being a homosexual, why would you make me feel guilty for being a heterosexual when in fact my choice is more natural?
During the Golden Age, the Atlantean bioscientists perfected many genetic engineering techniques and created individuals with super strength and powers, able to perform superhuman feats. There are indications that they also experimented with crossbreeding different species and cloning. Later, this technology was taken with them when they colonized Egypt, where it was also practiced. Omar tells us they learned how to block brain impulses to parts of the brain that caused crime and negative emotions. They later used this technique to control minds. The Atlans...
So, according to the author, like I said, the Atlans colonized Egypt. But when you know, if they disappeared and they had left, this region was unaltered, right? But then you get some primitive beings that have to start from the beginning, and they know some secrets, right? And they're passing it down through ritual and initiation. They gatekeep it, right? They don't want you to know what was here before. So they only telling a few. The rest, y'all here to work. Y'all here to restore where we once was. Y'all the workers. So education wasn't even privy to everybody back then. But guess what? The priesthood, they're going to make sure they live good. And they're going to keep the knowledge within the priesthood, and you would have to be initiated until they too will be infiltrated. You have to understand, because I do believe in the reptilians, that their thing was infiltrating always. That's what they did. Infiltrate, right? They don't have the numbers. What they have is the intellect. So if you have 100 idiots and 5 intellectually superior beings, that's 20, 20, 20. Everybody take 20. Don't tell me you can't control 20 idiots. You go over there, handle your 20. You go over there, handle your 20. You go handle your 20. This is a piece of cake, right? And let's pit them against each other so they don't share information, right? Yours is Caucasian looking. They what we call the white people. You handle yours. Yours is the black-headed ones. You handle yours. Don't let them talk to each other. Because it appears that's what's been going on to me. Right? Superior intellectual. Let's divide them even. Now we got gay. And the list goes on. You understand how we are different? We got religion. We got politics. We got, the list goes on. This is manufactured chaos. That's what this is. It's manufactured chaos.
Also practiced telepathy and used it to communicate with dolphins, who are also of extraterrestrial origin, highly intelligent. Atlantean technology. According to Edgar Casey and journalist and psychic Ruth Montgomery, as related by Steve Omar, the Atlanteans used laser rays and crystals to fuel their power plants. There was a huge firestone with power generated by filtering the rays of the sun through ruby prisms, which concentrated energy upon instruments connected in the transportation complex by remote control. Inside a huge dome with a sliding roof, cosmic energy stations transmitted beams that could be turned up so high they became the famous death ray. Inventor and visionary Nikola Tesla, who claimed to have off-planet sources of information and appeared to be tuned into the Atlantean information, described a possible death ray. Tesla said that it could destroy anything approaching within 200 miles, and will provide a wall of power, and would make any country, large or small, impregnable against armies, airplanes, and other means for attack. Tesla's version was really a potent particle beam accelerator, something that is now in the arsenals of both the United States and Russia. But apparently, the Atlantean version could somehow exponentially amplify the power of the sun's rays using the Firestone. Omar claims that the Atlantean scientists had also developed an antimatter weapon. He says, when a beam of antimatter comes in contact with ordinary matter, it instantaneously converted it into invisible energy. In other words, it vaporized it. No wonder traces of Atlantean buildings and cities are so hard to find. They were converted into invisible energy.
Notice how he says invisible energy. Now, this is a footnote. I won't expound on it, but we will get back to it at a later date. Dark matter is an invisible energy. Actually, they distinguish the two, the scientists. So there's dark matter and there is dark energy. The scientists distinguish the two. Now, I spoke about this briefly yesterday, but we will expound on it, and I'll probably do a office show where I go into the studio and I actually create the PowerPoint slides for you guys, right? But dark energy, dark matter does not absorb light. It does not respond to the same photons. It does not respond to atoms, but the scientists believe it's there. Because its entity apparently has created the force of gravity within the universe. So they do believe it's there. Now, that had just struck me when he said, we were saying that this antimatter machine would turn it into an invisible energy. Why am I mentioning this? Well, there's some that believe that all things are created from one energy that are vibrating at different frequencies. This is not a new concept. We hear people talking about the ether, but even before the ether, the ancient Greeks spoke of the nous. Now, to help your mind, because I have different levels of understanding here before me today that's listening to me. So some people, they do understand because they have prior knowledge. They understand me, what I'm saying. But some don't, and I have to remember them because they're not here listening to me right now for lies. They're listening for maybe, hopefully, someone giving a damn about understanding and not just the views and you know what I'm saying, the likes and getting into the algorithm. They stopped here for a reason. So I have to remember these people. And then I have to remember my own journey, that it didn't take one day. It didn't take one episode for me to really fully understand. So I'm very repetitive. Shout out to B Dolo who reminded me, yo, keep being repetitive. You're right, B Dolo. Because that's how I learn. Just repetition. That's how I still learn. I listen to something like, you would hate to learn with me. You would hate to learn with me. I'm telling you. The amount of time I spend on one word and one sentence is crazy. So I don't want them to think that air is this invisible energy of atoms. It is an invisible, intangible, almost. If you want to say that, it can still be captured. But it is invisible. However, we know what air is made up of. Mostly nitrogen and oxygen and some other gases. So the dark matter I'm talking about is not air. It is another substance which all dark because either they don't know what it is or they won't say what it is, because if they said what it is, then they have to acknowledge certain things. Right? They may have to acknowledge your soul. Right? Do not understand this. I want the cognition is a tricky thing. Words. After this series, we go into words. We moving to words yet. We're moving to words next. The magic of words. That's what we're going after this series, right? Now, however long this series takes, I'm not going to rush it, but we're going to go to the magic of words after this series. Because as soon as you hit dark, there's something that goes off in your cognition that equates dark to positive or negative, and it's not positive. Nothing good happens in the dark. You see, they say follow the science, but science will not acknowledge and put a stamp on whether you have a soul or not. They'll do a Sandman dance around whether you have a soul. It is the dogmatic organizations that say, yeah, you got a soul. Which, at this point, we take what they say with a block of salt, not a grain of salt, right? At this point, we're taking what you say with a block of salt, right? We don't even know if the story of Moses was true. This way might have been Akhenaten leaving Egypt in a temper tantrum and going to start his own cult. For all we know. Maybe we will get there after the Word Magic series. And then everyone else falling in line, stealing the Jewish ideas, Christians and Muslims. It is what it is. You can't build a house on quicksand, can you? So, if it starts with lies, it ends with lies. Hello. Do not get mad at me. I am only the messenger.
It is said that one of these antimatter rays is still operating in the Bermuda Triangle underwater and has been causing ships and planes to disappear. Our scientists secretly learned how to use antimatter propulsion power from the Eben aliens when we sent a military team to their planet in the mid-60s. Its use on alien spacecraft was first reported by Robert Lazar, who revealed that he observed it when he worked at Site S4 at Area 51. We learned how to convert matter to energy differently when we developed the atom bomb, and now perform this routinely in our nuclear energy power plants. But this is done by triggering atomic chain bombardments of highly unstable elements like uranium, and not by direct controlled conversions of matter to energy using an antimatter ray. Atomic Wars revealed that he observed it when he worked at Site S4 at Area 51. We learned how to convert matter to energy differently when we developed the atom bomb, and now perform this routinely in our nuclear energy power plants. But this is done by triggering atomic chain bombardments of highly unstable elements like uranium, and not by direct...
The show I did a few days ago with, I think her name was Linda Moret. She spoke about uranium and how we're utilizing uranium in high capacities, even though we know the detriment of using uranium. However, we still use uranium in bullets and in weaponry, knowing that the particles from the effects, after effects of using these weapons, make everyone sick on Earth. Now, That's kind of what kicked this whole thing off, because my question was, what type of human is willing to sacrifice their own kids and grandkids for nothing? We don't have to use uranium in our weapons. We don't. We do not have to use them. Why do we continue to do it? What I'm alluding to is that there must be another species down here that is purposely trying to get another species sick. Us being the other species. There must be another species that are more intellectually superior, that come up with ways to eradicate the Homo sapiens sapien from the earth. It's taking more time and effort because we populate too fast. Way faster than a reptilian would. This is why you wake up and you like, why does it seem like everything that is against my natural intrinsic value, innate behavior is being implemented? Things that I would not do as a human being are being suggested by the governors of this world. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but spiritual wickedness in high places.
Direct controlled conversions of matter to energy using an antimatter ray. Atomic wars. Omar cites evidence that the Atlanteans also had nuclear weapons. Apparently, war erupted between Atlantis and the inhabitants of the Indian subcontinent. It seems very unlikely that the early human tribes had already spread to India, and even if they had, it would have been almost impossible for primitive humans with no technology to be at war with high-tech Atlantean humans. So that would suggest that probably the reptilian Nagas had taken over the surface there. That makes sense, since we know that they inhabited the entire underground complex beneath India. In which was located their capital city of Bogavita. Omar tells us that ancient tomes like the Book of Dzyan, kept by Tibetan monks, and the Indian Ramayana and Dronaparva and others, describe destruction that could only have been created by atomic explosions. He says the Rama Empire was devastated by nuclear bombs, laser-powered guided missiles, rockets, and fallout described in such detail that the truth cannot be mistaken. There is no way that primitive men could have invented that technical knowledge.
Right.
Of the Book of Dzyan, he says, the book continues to give a vivid, detailed description of the atomic explosions that followed when the missile hit its target, including the mushroom cloud, the fireball that made men blind when they looked at it, the unbearable wave of heat, genetic deformities after the battle, and radiation sickness, exactly like what happened in Hiroshima, Japan.
Right.
After an atomic bomb was dropped in 1945.
Right.
Furthermore, the Rig Veda said, the fire from the terrible weapon destroyed brighter than 1,000 suns. There is some evidence that the war spread to Central and South America. Once again, it is very unlikely that the recently created human race would have strayed so far from Mesopotamia. And what reason would they have had to be at war with their fellow human Atlans? So we can reasonably assume that the Atlanteans were attacking reptilian surface strongholds in those areas. Omar describes the evidence. Where else did the Atlanteans strike? Why is it that all of the great Mayan, Aztec, Inca, and Toltec civilizations in the Americas were built in the South Tropics, in hot, steamy, uncomfortable human jungles so dense it was a major hassle for farming and construction? Or so high up in the desolate barren Andes, farming was exceptionally difficult? They, the natives, told of a huge war there long ago, using terrible weapons from the sky that devastated the cities and let the mysterious energy in the air that killed the crops, poisoned the survivors,
Crazy.
and ruined the soil.
Crazy.
Omar says further about this. In the public library in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, is the historical account of a hidden and great city of ancient date found without inhabitants. Over 300 men were on an expedition deep into the Amazon jungle in search of the gold, and they found a ruined paved road, part of which had been destroyed by a huge disaster. They followed it into the ruins to a once splendid deserted city. The road in one area was a view of crystals and multicolored brilliance. The book went on to describe how there was no furniture in the houses, no footprints, and no life anywhere. There was a huge plaza, statue, and an obelisk badly damaged, as if struck by lightning, and a temple with a magnificent facade. In the halls were found art of great beauty, and statues and portraits. In the book, the men said, "In all the expansive mills we found no grass, weeds, trees, or plants. The country beyond the city consisted of green fields dotted with blooming flowers. Spherical gold coins, hieroglyphics, ancient beyond recognition, and artifacts were found." Omar asks, what disaster destroyed this once glorious city, having no trace of inhabitants? And what energy, other than nuclear fallout, could exterminate all vegetation and keep the jungle from overgrowing the city for thousands of years? Apparently, the reptilians too had atomic bombs and struck back at the Maldekians in the Gobi. We learned from Omar. The desert sands in the ruined city in the Gobi is vitrified into glass, just exactly like the desert sands in Nevada, where atomic bombs were tested in the 1940s. And the huge hard solid stone buildings are melted by a temperature so high that it could have only been caused by lasers or atomic bombs. This attack evidently forced the Maldekians to retreat underground to escape from the fallout. There, they founded a subsurface city, which famously became known as Agartha. All of this indicates that the Atlantis war with the reptilians continued in full force, even after Lemuria was gone. The Federation conducted the battle on several fronts. In what was apparently a coordinated campaign, the Martians, now inhabiting Sumer, and the Maldekians in the Gobi area attacked the reptilian lunar colonies, while the Atlans dealt with reptilian surface eruptions all over the globe. It was a planet-wide take-no-prisoners confrontation with the human forces now employing awesome high-tech weaponry. It was, after all, a battle for the entire solar system, and Earth was the critical battle. The Federation determined the Sol system to become another Lyra.
Let's take a breather right there. He's dropping a lot of jewels. I hope you guys are taking notes. He's dropping a lot of jewels, a lot of dates, bomb testing dates. Now, just want to help your brain out for a second because it's probably going 1,000 miles a minute. And these things he's saying will challenge your intellect. Because what he's suggesting is that there's several different species down here. Which is funny because we don't all have the same blood type. Why is that? Someone told me when you get a blood test, they give you everything except your blood type on that report. I don't know how true it is. Because I've never had to wonder that, right? Never had to wonder. However, some tell me, nah, your blood type is not on that report. Everything else is on that report, what they want you to know, but your blood type is not. I said, your blood type is not on the report? They said, no. So that's wild and crazy. However, what the author is suggesting that there's other entities down here on this earth, and he's giving a history of where these different entities might have come from or where they have spawned from. At this point, I think many of them would have adapted and evolved, especially if they were procreating with other Homo sapiens sapiens. Then it might not be as evidence of their presence, right? They may not even know where they spawned from. They may not know their true powers and history. You may be derived from one of these ancient beings. Or it may be somebody right now on Kensington Drive in Philly, sprawled out on fentanyl right now with ancient blood running through their system of one of these entities. Who knows? But what I do know is in the 1950s, in Roswell, there was some type of crash from an unidentified flying object, which the United States government quickly swooped in and told everybody it was a weather. And if you believe that, I'm not really here to you. Whether it was a weather balloon or not, I do not buy that. I reject that in your offer to sell me a Brooklyn Bridge. I do not want your green eggs and ham. I do not want your green eggs and ham, Sam I am. I do not want to buy your Brooklyn. Yes, I believe that those were extra aliens and not a weather balloon as the U.S. government has suggested. Ocean Love is in the house, or was in the house. A lot of people got to go to work. He says blessings to you all. So Ocean Love will probably bounce. But lots of allegory and symbolism from the book of coming forth by the day and by night, and many other texts in the Bible. Target emoji, right? Meaning, you're right on point, Ocean Lover. Right on point. That book is sitting on my desk, right next to my computer. Right on point. And again, what I'm suggesting is that the Egyptians, who we gave a lot of credit to, have have taken the credit and not have given the credit to who they learned it from. Right? I don't think there's any wrong. Okay, we got to give you, you're in the story, so we cannot write you out the story. But it is diabolical for you to write the people out of the story who you got inherited knowledge from. That's diabolical, Egyptians. That is diabolical, right? So I get it. Everyone's running around. We're talking about Kemet as if Kemet was the first place. How? How, beloved? It is nonsensical for me to believe that you started it, and this earth is billions of years old. The same way it's nonsensical for me to believe that the guy you call Jesus, not Jesus, as it is spelled, but Jesus, not to be mistaken with Jesus, who sells fentanyl down in Mexico. It's a totally different guy, I assure you. All right, I'm going through and I make, if I go out, don't nobody leave, just wait for me to go out tunnel. And everyone's out here worshiping him without his full history, right? One thing we know for sure is his name wasn't Jesus with a J. We know that. We know that for facts. His name wasn't Jesus with a J. There's no arguing about that. Do not debate anyone. So once that conversation came up, everybody's, well, you know, this is the translation of his name. Bro, what's his name? Because now you're starting off on the wrong foot. You didn't even give me his real name. Now I'm starting to think his whole story is made up. No. Everybody calm down. Let's panic. He is Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus of Nazareth. Hold on, blood. You know there was no Nazareth when he was around, right? You do know this, right? They had to make up a Nazareth, or you don't know that? No, I know how it looks. No, it looks like you making up some phony baloney, blood. I want to believe you. I swear to God. Wallahi, I want to believe you. But what you're saying is not adding up. And I'm going to be honest. It's quite offensive. It is quite offensive at this point that you would keep telling these things and the stuff you're saying is not adding up, bro. Furthermore, the earth been here billions of years, and you want me to believe this dude who died on a cross according to your own volition was the king of the what? Was the God? Are you crazy? Yo, you know how many people they killed to believe this story? They killed a lot of people to believe this story, bro. So they can't, but I think the time has come, right? The return on their investment has been 1/1,000,000th of a fold, right? You got your money back out of this story, bro. It's time. Enough is enough. Enough is enough, bro. Enough is enough. Knock it off. Knock it off with the Jesus of Nazareth. There was no goddamn Nazareth when the man was born. The translations are horrible for this story. There was a Nazarene community. That it was. There was a Nazarene community, as well as there was an Essene community. The two communities were similar, Essenes and Nazarenes, and Nazarites. The character who you guys are talking about was part of the Essene community, but because the two communities were very similar, I guess the authors went with the Nazarenes. So therefore they say Jesus of Nazareth, Nazarenes. These are translators who don't know what they're talking about. Why? Because they are in a rush to take control of the human population. That's what's important, that we maintain a story that can control these simpletons. They're simpletons, they're idiots. We just have to control them with the words. Because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, but more importantly, the Word was God. So after this series, we will get into the magic of words. And what is coincidental is that words, work, worship, world all start with W-O-R. We'll get to it eventually. Oh, my phone shut off. It's tired of me out here freeballing, talking nonsense.
The reptilian fifth column. After suffering devastating losses all over the surface of the planet and on the moon, the reptilians apparently realized they had to change their tactics. They resorted to their time-honored technique for conquering another planet: hybridization. They were, after all, master geneticists. By creating human-looking people with as much as 50% reptilian genes, they could enlist these beings and use them to infiltrate key positions on Atlantis, and then could ultimately force Atlantis to destroy itself. The reptilians had been used...
Stop right there. Stop right there. Consider what he said. Ultimately having a people destroy themselves. And it is very reminiscent to what I believe the strategy is right now and what's going on right now currently. Give me a second, y'all. I don't like to block intersections, so I gotta pay attention to what I'm doing. Let me bring that back like 60 seconds.
Prisoners' confrontation with the human forces now employing awesome high-tech weaponry. It was, after all, a battle for the entire solar system, and Earth was the critical battleground. The Federation was determined not to allow the Sol system to become another Lyra. The reptilian fifth column. After suffering devastating losses all over the surface of the planet and on the moon, the reptilians apparently realized they had to change their tactics. they resorted to their time-honored technique for conquering another planet: hybridization. They were, after all, master geneticists. By creating human-looking people with as much as 50% reptilian genes, they could enlist these beings and use them to infiltrate key positions on Atlantis, and then could ultimately force Atlantis to destroy itself. The reptilians had been using hybridization and infiltration as a softening up tactic in their victories throughout the galaxy. In the modern era, it was nationalist General Emilio Mola who coined the term Fifth Column in 1936, during the Spanish Civil War. In the battle for Madrid, he said he had 4 columns of soldiers and a 5th column of infiltrators inside the city. It seems likely that Mola and the nationalist commander General Francisco Franco had strategic help from reptilian allies, who we now know were heavily invested in a fascist takeover of Europe. This was probably not a tactic taught at the straight-laced Toledo Military Academy, from which he graduated. After the sinking of Lemuria, the reptilians had easy access to the surface world through the many openings all over the world. So it was not difficult for them to begin their assault on Atlantis by infiltrating the Atlant civilization from below. The reptilians, since they reside in the 4th dimension, have power over evil beasts and other malevolent entities in the astral realm. They've learned how to employ those entities to overshadow and corrupt otherwise innocent humans. They created a cadre of black magicians on Atlantis by abducting Atlan humans for their DNA and combining it with their own, thus exposing the new creatures to influences from the astral plane. The Atlantean initiates were clairvoyant anyway, and now the newly born
This is what I want you to understand. It don't matter if you believe what this guy's saying or not, right? You struggling with what if he's saying is a little far-fetched doesn't matter. You know what matters? The growing popularity of Satan, what you guys call Satanism, is what he is talking about, right? So it doesn't matter, oh, I don't believe that. You believe what you want. Maybe your head is in the sand. Who knows where your head is at? But they've been getting more bolder every Super Bowl, right? I don't know about the last Super Bowl. We don't even know what was going on in the last Super Bowl. Like, I have not even commented on the last Super Bowl, right? But we have a lot of public shows where they do these performances, which later come out and people are saying, oh, this was a black magic ritual. And then some of it is like obvious, right? When they come out dressed as the devil and all type of crazy stuff, it's like, all right, no, this is a bit much. Like, what was this performance even about? And it's fire all over the place and upside down crosses and all of this other stuff, right? Many people are not going to tell you that they do study a form of magic because of the stigmatism that it comes with. So therefore, people are apprehensive to even let you in that part of their life. They don't want to let you know, hey, I study the tarot. Hey, I study, I got magic rituals I study. It's none of your concern. It is their business. And besides, they don't need the extra negative energy attracting into their life because the majority of people don't understand something. So therefore, now they're directing a different type of energy into their life. They just keep it out and won't tell you, right? What people don't understand, they fear. And because you don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't exist or it is not real. It means you are ignorant to that reality is what it means. And you are scared to enter there because you was taught to not enter that, right? Now, there are some people who have been initiated into different folds of understanding. So you have white magicians and you have black magicians. Again, the moment you hear dark, you associate that with the side. I told you this before. So we can already confer what dark magicians are, what black magicians are versus the white magicians. But I've already told you, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness in high places. So these are the governors of this world. The people that control the FCC. The people that control the streaming platforms and what you perceive with your optics and with your ears. These are the governors. And quite frankly, they initiate the people into the fold who they want to initiate. And when they get in there, they will be teaching them all type of rituals and magic that involves sexual energy. Magic that involves sexual energy, because that is a very strong energy. But the purest of all energy and blood is the energy and blood that has not been tainted. Where do you find energy and blood that has not been tainted? Can anyone write that in the chat if you dare? Don't be scared. I'm giving you the permission. Where do you find energy and blood that has not been tainted? Nasty work. Your man is out here with the Ed Hardy sweat, the sweat jeans. Diabolical work. They got the Ed Hardy on the back, but going down the leg. It's disgusting. I'm going to assure you that. I won't even let you see it. Just take my word for it. Don't ever buy these jeans. Now, to answer the question, where do you find energy that is untainted and blood that is untainted? The answer is children. That's the answer. Children. So when you combine a ritual that requires sexual energy, but from more of an innocent perspective, and they need a medium, who are they going to use? Yeah, they're going to use children, beloved. They've been using children. Then this becomes normalized, and this becomes a thing where they're trafficking, right? Then it's like one of those things that started with gold, where gold was once mined for a very specific reason, And then after a while, the people there lose why they was even doing it in the first place, and then they don't know why. They just feel like gold is valuable, right? Gold got to be valuable. I got the gold chain on and all this other stuff, but they don't know how gold became the thing of value and the thing of popularity. And now, who knows if all these children, the thing is, it started with not respecting the value of children and not using, allowing these children to be. This didn't happen just yesterday, right? This has been a thing, an underground thing for quite some time. It's just that we have it's really bad right now. The amount of missing children, the amount of sex slaves that they're using, right? And does the government know about it? Number one. Are they covering it up? Number two. Are they involved? Number three. Could they do more to combat? Are they hiding the numbers? Are these reports and the numbers messed with, altered at all? Well, they say hundreds of thousands of youth missing or millions missing. Is this an actual black market business across the world? How profitable is this business? Who are involved? Can it be stopped? It's a lot. It's a lot. So again, it doesn't matter whether what you believe or not. They put it in your face. So what you don't believe it. There are entities that are in high position that do believe in the spiritual darkness, and they practice. They put it in your face. What are you going to do about it? Once again, my phone is shut off because of my yammering.
Hybrids use their natural clairvoyance for evil. A potent school for black magicians sprang up on Atlantis, where they were taught to use sexual energies to supply the power for their workings. Eventually, they constituted an army. The leader was a powerful black magician named Orhuarpa. In the Revolution of Beelzebub, Samael Aon Weir says, when Orhuarpa saw that people were worshipping him as a god, he amassed a powerful army and marched against Tolan, the city of the 7 gates of massive gold, where the white magicians from Atlantis reigned. During the day, Orhuarpa fought dressed in steel, with shield, helmet, casque, and sword. Yet during the night, he unleashed his beasts with his witchcraft. They were in the form of wolves, and they destroyed enemies. That's how he captured Tolan. He became emperor of Atlantis, thus establishing the cult of the tenebrous sun. The migrations and the cataclysms. The city was later recaptured by Tower. The white magicians set fire to the tower, and Orhuarpa was burned alive. Aon Weir says, unfortunately, events did not end. Orhuarpa incarnated again, and when he was old enough, he reunited his army of warriors and sorcerers and marched against Tolan, but he could not capture the city again. So he established his own throne against the other throne. The white magicians were then warned to leave Atlantis because it would soon sink. Other clairvoyant groups also saw the handwriting on the wall and began massive emigrations out of Atlantis. They went east to Egypt and Agartha, and west to the Americas. Subsurface colonies were created underground in the South American jungle and under Mount Shasta and Death Valley in North America. Scientists had developed submarines and used them to create domed underwater cities to which many fled to escape the approaching cataclysms. Mountainous locations, such as Machu Picchu and the high plateau in Peru surrounding Lake Titicaca, became havens. Wherever they went, the Atlanteans brought with them advanced spirituality and science. As they integrated into the still primitive human populations, they were viewed as gods. After they left, on Atlantis, the forces unleashed by the Black Magicians ignited dormant volcanoes. Aeon Weir continues. Certain dangerous igneous manifestations started to appear in Atlantis. This was because the use of the sexual forces, when utilized for black magic, made the fire of the dormant volcanoes enter into activity. The sexual forces have an intimate relationship with all the forces of nature, because the sexual forces reside not only in our sexual organs, but also in all of our cells, and moreover, within each atom of the cosmos. The sexual force is the cause of electricity. It is...
Stop right there. Now, him not expounding on that sounds kind of crazy. The last part he said, because I'm going to give pushback on that. He did not, you can't just say that. You have to clarify that. Because I know quite a few people who may understand what you talk about, but because you did not articulate it right, oh, they're going to have a field day with that. If you say, the sexual force is the cause of electricity, when we know that the cause of electricity is anything but that. There are several causes of electromagnetic electricity. You have a voltage going through your body right now. Whenever electrons leave or enter an atom, there is a charge, a negative charge or a positive charge. The negative charge creates electricity. When is electrons... That's crazy. I hate to be dead directly in the middle of this right now. When is electrons in your body not leaving atoms and entering other atoms? Never. It's never happening. It's always happening, in fact. So therefore, you always have an electromagnetic field around you, which has nothing to do with the electromagnetic field around this earth. But I'm going to rewind that for 30 seconds. I get what he's saying. You're saying it's in the energy, right? It's in the energy. It's powerful. I get it. But I don't think you could recklessly say sexual energy is the cause of electricity, not expecting someone to push back, because what you're saying already sounds ridiculous and crazy. So when you say something like that, that's just a door opening to discredit everything you have said.
Sexual forces, when utilized for black magic, made the fire of the dormant volcanoes enter into activity. The sexual forces have an intimate relationship with all the forces of nature, because the sexual forces reside not only in our sexual organs, but also in all of our cells, and moreover, within each atom of the cosmos. The sexual force is the cause of electricity. It is logical, then, that the dormant volcanoes would enter into activity, since by means of the sexual energy the volcanoes were intimately related with the Black Magicians. However, there were even more potent forces destabilizing the continent. The Atlans realized that the reptilians were making inroads from underground, and devised a plan of attack. They decided to point the death ray directly down to destroy whatever reptilian forces lurked below ground. The resulting tectonic stresses were disastrous when combined with the volcanoes energized by the Black Magicians. The Earth's axis tilted over, causing a 90-degree pole shift. Omar describes the catastrophe. Huge cracks in the earth opened and swallowed entire cities. Lava buried roads and towns. Glacier ground cities to powder and covered them. The death ray and nuclear bombs disintegrated civilizations. And tons of mud from receding tidal waves buried whole cultures. 400+ miles per hour winds blew vehicles and objects high into the sky and out to sea, only to rain matter and flesh back to the new ocean bottoms. The rampaging fires destroyed every forest on the planet and most of its animal life. The annihilation was so complete that mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, bison, and other animals became extinct. Nuclear winters set in, and the smoke of thousands of erupting volcanoes and bombs hid the sun for decades and froze life on the surface. Those who remained on the surface in colonies died. Dust unto dust. The survivors waited in their refuges until the radioactive dust had cleared, and then emerged into a new world. Omar waxes poetic as he describes the desolation. He says, "Gone were all of humanity's great achievements. Gone was 60,000 years of scientific progress, destroyed in one single night. Gone were the futuristic crystal cities, an age which today's science can only envision, existed in that ever so faint yet brilliant distant past. Gone were the interplanetary ships, the teleportation temples, and the cities of gold. Gone were mankind's hopes and their dreams. Gone were the factories, the machines, and the robots that had supplied Atlantis with all her needs. Gone were the planetary governments that had made all decisions for a race that had ceased to think for itself. What was left in the ashes was global anarchy. Some believed the Atlanteans had gambled with the Creator in a deadly game of life and had lost. The devastation that followed had few, if any, parallels in history. From dust to dust."
Yep. Sounds about accurate. Sounds about accurate and right on time. That is my time. 2-hour show today. Appreciate everybody coming on the board. Tomorrow we will continue on with Atlantis. I think we will go deeper into Egypt and some other areas. But the thing is to take this, some of this information is new to people. And the thing is, it's just for you to digest for right now. Weigh it against what you know already. You understand? What's out there. Appreciate everybody for coming through today. Participating in the show. I invite you to question everything, right? Everything. Why would you turn right there, though, bro? That's crazy. And that being said, I'm probably going to show back up tomorrow around the same time. And we're going to stay on this theme. Like I said, we're going to stay here for now. I know I got at least 3 more videos in the works just on this alone. So we're going to stay here for now. And then I do believe right after this series, we'll head over to word magic. I think it's about that time we get into that a little bit more, a little bit deeper, have a better understanding. And if nothing else, right, you may not become an adept on how to utilize this science in this. Let's just call it a science for now. But you will have an understanding of it. And there are schools that will teach you how to master the things that we're talking about. It's up to you if you want to get involved in these type of things. I'm not here to initiate you into anything, Jack. But they exist. That's not even a turning lane, blood. All right, appreciate everybody for coming through. That being said, I'm gonna holler at y'all later. See y'all tomorrow, inshallah, God willing. And I look forward to it. Peace out.